Obviously, it was a disastrous night last night for Manchester United. Staffy again, 3 goals given away after a 2-0 lead. Bruno sent off, the defense all over the shot, and maybe the craziest piece of management I've ever seen in my life. And the best performing player on the pitch, who looked amazing, scored and set up a goal, was taken off because he had to be rested for the weekend when it was 2-2. How are you feeling about it all this morning, mate? Or this afternoon here in the UK, but this morning in America?
I feel the same as yesterday. I'm not gonna lie. I find myself it's very difficult for me to be emotionally invested in this anymore. I think I only raged on the third goal. All the other goals, like when we scored and conceded, I just was like, yeah, okay. Oh, we went up. Yeah, we're probably gonna concede soon. Oh, we conceded. Yeah, I expected it. So, and I think that's the worst thing to happen to you as a fan. Once you're just numb to everything that happens to your team, whether it's good, it's bad, or bad. Generally, why are you a fan anymore? It's just like you can't even enjoy it because the most important thing about being a fan is just being emotionally invested. And I'm really not with this team anymore. But when you talk about yesterday's game, I'm not really surprised because I've watched this game about 3, 4, 5 times already. And I'm not talking about those 90 minutes. I'm talking about I saw this game happen in the Ten Hag era multiple times. In Europe, there's a funny stat. We played 10 games in Europe with Erik Ten Hag. 4 of them we've led by 2 goals and ended up not winning the game. So this happened 4 times. That's 40%. It happened against Galatasaray, happened against Copenhagen, it happened against Sevilla at home, and it happened obviously yesterday. So
Look at those
this is
teams that you're
nothing
reading
new.
out as well, Staffy. Look at those teams you're reading out, bro.
Yeah, it's nothing new. And and you know what, Don, what's so embarrassing is that this is not the first time we drop into the Europa League post Sir Alex. I think we're at a 50% rate now between being in Europa League or not since Sir Alex left. So in about 11 to 12 years, we made the Europa League 6 times. I remember the first few times when we made Europa, it was a bit embarrassing because we felt like we belonged in the Champions League. Even if I win the Europa, I'm not really proud of it. You know what I'm saying? Now we go into the Europa and we're no longer the favorites. We're no longer, no one looks at United and thinks this team should be in the Champions League. They just, the Giant has just like, fell this time and they're in the Europa League. No one looks at it that way anymore. We look at the squad and we look at this United team and they belong there. If anything, they might have belonged in the Conference League because they don't perform like a Europa League team, let alone a Champions League team. And that's how far we have fallen. You look at the 90 minutes yesterday, that doesn't look like a squad that's been spent 600 million on. It generally doesn't. Like, put all your bias aside, whether you're a United fan or a rival, if you watch that game, you wouldn't believe that that team cost 600 million. And we played a Porto team that, listen, I didn't even know that, but this Porto team has been going through a transition. They had a president step down. They had this manager apparently was the assistant manager to the old manager that they had. They've had a few sales. So they're going through a transition phase themselves. And you could technically see, I mean, I watched them yesterday. I didn't feel like this is the old Porto. I didn't feel like that's even Porto from last year, the one that gave Arsenal troubles. We put 3 past them and we still couldn't win the game. And that just shows you how poor both teams are. But we cost, as I said, our team cost 600 million. Our coach is coming out all the time saying that he's the second most successful coach in England right now after Pep. And you don't see that. Everything he says, you cannot see it with your eyes. Like what he's saying does not match what you see on the pitch. And it's an absolute embarrassment. And if you want to talk a little bit more technical about the game, Terry, I mean, like it's only right that you start with the back line. That back line absolutely got decimated yesterday. And it's I know there's a lot of individual errors, but it's a reflection of what this manager has done to his team. This back line absolutely got better to what's his name again? Samuel Amaridium.
I'm
That's the guy
already
that we made fun in the summer for Chelsea being linked to. Everyone called him the new Lukaku because the guy has no touch. But you know what he has? He has physicality, he has pure dominance, and he cooked the Ligt yesterday. I was on Straight Facts here during the summer when we got linked with the Ligt, and you remember my facial reaction. And you and Lawless were like, "Oh, you're only negative with your club." This is exactly why I was negative about this signing. I said the only reason I'm okay with it is because we ended up getting Euro, and I know Euro is my future. The Ligt, the way he got dominated yesterday on both goals is why he's never going to be an elite center back. That window for him to become a good center back to an elite center back has already passed him because it passed him when he couldn't do it at Juve and it passed him when he couldn't do it at Bayern. This is exactly why this was always going to be an issue. Because he got absolutely cooked. He got and the fact that he played next to a 5'8" center back doesn't really help because he can't even share the duty with him. He can't do what Saliba and Gabriel do, where both of them can actually like lock up an attacker together. He got absolutely cooked, and there was no answer to it. And I look at the manager, and I'm looking at that first half, and I'm yet to check the stats. I just don't feel like even checking the stats. I can use my eyes and see how many times they crossed the ball in. And if I'm Ligt and I'm drowning right now, and to be fair, he was locking up Samuel earlier in the game. He was winning everything in the box until he scored. But I'm looking at this manager. I'm like, what have you done to help me? Have you put in another center back to come in and help me clear out these headers? No. Have you changed the instructions where there's no more crossing being made into the box? No. They were spamming crosses for a whole 45 minutes, and the manager did nothing to adjust. I remember big manager Jose Mourinho would come into a game, and like if he sees he made a mistake, he would take out a player in 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, I'm looking at this and I'm like, why is Maguire not on? Why is Evans not on? Lisandro Martinez was completely useless in this team in the first half, and he did nothing to help his partner. And the manager couldn't adjust it. He should have been the first one off, but he kept him in the whole game. He was getting dominated in the air, and he was getting dominated on the floor because he's 5'8", and I said this before. He has the short man syndrome. That's why he likes to act tough. One second. He likes to act tough because he can't keep up with it on the pitch. I've been calling him out for a while now. Now people are starting to call him out. He's such a liability when we're not controlling the game because he doesn't have the pace, he doesn't have the physicality, and obviously doesn't have the height. He can't defend one-on-one, and he can't go out to wide areas. So he was completely useless yesterday. And the manager, the fact that he didn't bring on a center back to help was absolutely shambolic. And then I look at the second half. You mentioned Rashford, and I think this should be the biggest talking point. Rashford did nothing different yesterday in terms of instructions being given to him that he does every game. He's still on the touchline, aka very far away from the box, picking up the ball from far areas, has to dribble through past his defenders. That's the same instructions. The difference is he actually found a little bit of form yesterday. That first goal, listen, it's on the goalkeeper that he didn't save that. But to get yourself into that position and to even shoot it there, I got to give him credit for it. Because when he dribbles into defenders, we make fun of him. The fact that he was able to skin 2 defenders and get a shot on target, that's on him. And it worked. And then another one, he set up Højlund for it. And let's be honest, if he wasn't greeting that last chance in the first half, we probably would be 3-2 up. When he passed a couple defenders, he skipped past them, probably laid off there. But when you look at it, he was the only one that's actually offering something. That right-hand side for Porto was getting cooked. Like he had that guy, he was barbecuing that guy. And then the manager takes him out and says it was instructions because, it was tactics because we were conceding a lot of chances on the left side. Hold on a minute. Since when has Rashford ever been a good defender? Rashford's always been a shit defender. It's just that today he was a shit defender, but he's a good attacker. So if you've played him in the past when he wasn't offering any defensive efforts on that side anyways. So what changed today? Why did today you looked at him and you were like, yeah, we're conceding chances off his side? It's always been a thing.
And it's crazy anyway, because we were open for the opening 5 minutes of the second half, as we always are, with or without Rashford on the pitch. We conceded. And the only reason they Porto then stopped attacking. They tried to hold on to that lead, and that's why they stopped having so many attacks down our left-hand side. If it would have stayed 2-2, the left-hand side would have been attacked in the same way because Garnacho would be following the exact same instructions that Rashford has been told to do. And it's why I don't care if people get at me anymore about defending the players. I'm going to defend them. I'm going to defend all of them, even the ones I don't want. Because I don't disagree with you that Lisandro looked awful last night. I'm not going to disagree with you that the Ligt didn't look awful last night. But there comes a point where you have to look at the fact that this was the 31st time since Ten Hag has been here. 31 times we've conceded 2 or more goals. It is the 24th time we've conceded 3 or more goals. Now,
more than anyone there, by the way. It's
more than anyone in the Premier League.
Conceded more
whether or not
than us in the league.
And this is why I was actually saying it on a video I did this morning. When I say call you out, is I wanted to ask you. I get you don't like Lisandro Martinez, but for me, I can't even have those player conversations because we were conceding like this and we looked just as bad when he was out injured the whole of last season. So for me, I'm at a point where I'm almost putting, if someone makes a mistake, like the goalie lets the ball fall through his legs, that's clearly on him for doing that. If somebody misses a sitter, I'll blame them for it. But most of our problems are structural with our team or managerial in the sense of, You're probably right when you've got a defender that's 5'9". He's 5'9", actually. He's not 5'8", he's 5'9". But when you've got a defender of that size, if a team is crossing the ball into the box a lot and they're starting to get some change out of it, you have to go and make that change. The manager has to make a change to adjust. If you're playing a game where you need two strong destroyers, you might play Ugarte and Casemiro at this point. If you're playing a team that's going to sit back against you and let you have the ball, you don't need to start with either of them. You can start with Eriksen and Mainu in the middle and have better ballers. He doesn't get his decision-making right regularly enough. We are not yet a complete squad where you can have a main 9 players that start against anybody and everybody, and you can adapt your style like Arsenal do right now, like Liverpool can we're not there yet as a squad, and every Man United fan knows it. But you said this earlier on, Don, and you're spot on. We are not as bad as we look right now. This squad is not 24 times conceding 3 goals bad. Because if it was, we'd get relegated. Relegation teams don't concede 3 or more goals the amount of time that we do.
But Terry, this is the thing though. The manager's setting you up to fail. And that's why people kept trying to say, all I do is defend Enzo and that. Because it got to a point where I'm watching how he's using certain players, like playing Enzo as a 10, playing Enzo in all this space, playing Caicedo in all this space. It's literally identical to what he's doing to the likes of Mainu. You know what I'm saying? The space between your centre backs and your midfielders, it's an absolute mess. And that's why for me, when I looked at Poch last season, I'm looking at it thinking, yo, how can we go to Old Trafford and make United look like a fucking decent team, right? Because their manager's shit as well. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I fully get what Terry's saying, because right now, the whole structure of the team is just not allowing people to thrive. And the thing is, when you've got the whole team basically playing badly, yeah, that's when you know it's the coach more time, bro. That's when you know, because it's like, yo, one person, cool, you can look at them as an individual. Everyone or most people, come on, bruv.
Yeah,
you know
and when he said what he did, now I understand about rotation when you've got 2 big games in a week. Why do I understand it? Fergie essentially invented it in English football. He essentially invented rotation and made it a thing and was successful with it by having a squad that can try and win multiple competitions. So I get it. But I have never seen, and some people, look, there's a lot of, and the reason why I don't like the player talk is a lot of agendas going on around players. People that don't like Rashford, not really praising his performance last night. Some saying, well, he was at fault for both goals. But it's an instruction. He is told to stay where he is. There was a great sort of almost bird's eye view of our team last night that showed Rashford, Sandro Martinez on the ball. You had Delo inverted inside, and then Rashford being told to hug the touchline really high. And there was this gulf of space where we are one poor pass or something outside of our control. One good tackle away from the opponents, because we do this as football fans. How many times has one of your strikers had a shot and a keeper saved it, and we've gone, how didn't you score that? But yet when it's the other way around, we go, great save, right? It's always from our perspective. All it takes is one good tackle from Porto, and they've got 50, 60, 70 yards to run into. Now, the difference is this. I am not saying our players are immune from criticism. But if you expose Gabriel and Saliba in that way, they're still going to be brilliant. But they're going to be exposed and split open more regularly. Liverpool, when they had that workman-like midfield in front of them and you couldn't penetrate the midfield, their back line looked invincible. As that midfield got a little weaker and Klopp didn't quite get it right, Van Dijk would still make brilliant tackles and challenges, but everybody was questioning him last season and the season before. Is he over the hill? Why? Because he was being caught out of position more, because the midfield was leaking, because there was more space, and it was exposing him. This is where I hate the tension my players get here. Until we are getting the basics right, until we are getting the fundamentals right, I find it so hard to overly judge them. You three have all had proper jobs in your career. If you started a job and you were given inadequate training, inadequate resources, and inadequate system access to complete your job properly, it would be absolutely ridiculous to give you a poor assessment and go, oh, you're not good enough for this job. And that's how I feel about these players right now. And it doesn't mean that I think they're all amazing, because that's what people will twist that into. But it's crazy for me.